Hello, welcome to Books and Brews,
the place where beer and literature meet.
with your host, certified Cicerone Michael Agnew.
And Laura Vosica, author of the Bluebells Chronicles.
Each month we invite a guest author to read their words and talk about writing while sipping beers specially paired with their work.
Today's guest is Ilona Parunakova.
So sit back,
Pop a cold one,
and dive into some books.
and brews. And we are then good to go, I do believe. Welcome everybody out there to episode 35 of the Books and Brews podcast. I actually looked it up this time, so it's right, 35.
After that fiasco, we'll always double check.
After the multiple fiascos of the last few
Oh, has it
episodes.
been multiple?
Yeah, I keep saying the wrong episode. I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, well, we're here again. What difference does it make? Yeah. So, yes, welcome. How's your month been, Michael?
Oh, it's been kind of crazy.
Really?
Yeah, trying to start getting my parents' house prepped to sell.
Oh, wow. Where are they
their
moving
house and
to?
all their worldly possessions.
That's a job I don't want when my parents decide to sell.
Yeah, it's. We found a estate liquidator auctioneer that's going to pretty much take care of things, which is great.
That takes a load off you. I have to admit, you and I have discussed the amount of stuff Chris and I have, and
Yeah.
I'm already feeling sorry for my kids if we go
Oh
on.
no, your kids are going to have a hard time. Unless they call such a person, and because those
Right.
folks, they'll just do it. They'll auction off everything in the house. If there are any collectibles, they'll take those and do that in separate auctions, anything of value.
Like
and then
pianos.
anything left over, they just get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they'll even auction the house.
If my kids have to deal with it, will be cursing me for all eternity. Mom, why do you have so much stuff? I'm like, I need my books, I need my instruments. Sorry. So are they moving up to Minneapolis to be closer to you?
No, they're staying in St. Louis. We already moved them into an assisted living place. So
Okay.
it's just time to get rid of the stuff.
Yeah. I'm hoping Chris and I never get to that point. I'm hoping we're, 95 and in good health and still playing our videos and whatnot. So yeah, mine's you would be excited to know, maybe. I don't know if I mentioned that we got an Arrow Garden. Did I mention that last month?
No.
I can't believe I didn't tell you, of all people. Yeah, I got Chris for a Christmas gift. I got him one of the really big ones that stands like 4 feet tall. And so we've been having fresh salad out of our hydroponic garden for the last.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and the tomatoes are starting to flower, so pretty soon we'll have flowers. And then we got these big bins and planted a whole bunch of vegetables like radishes, and I think we have carrots and peas maybe. So those are starting to sprout, and pretty soon we'll have vegetables that we can pick from our own indoor garden too.
Nice.
Got the growing lights on them. So I tried to do a time-lapse photography because I've been taking pictures every single day of these plants growing in the hydroponic garden. And I spent like 3 hours putting together every single one of these pictures to make a time lapse. And the program closed down on me. And
So did you lose it all?
Oh, what?
Did you lose it all? All those
I
pictures?
lost it all. Yeah, I lost it all. And I've spent the last week trying to just gear myself up to redo all that work. And my mind's just shut down like, oh, this was so much work.
Technology.
Yeah, it's great when it works. And then it
Yeah.
just want to cry. But, and then, yes, I got myself like my first sports injury of my entire life. I was so excited. I went skiing with my son, took him skiing for his birthday with a couple of his friends. And, I'm not that great at skiing. I go skiing like once a year, and I'm decent, but I'm not great. So I told them I'm a level 1. So they gave me these stupid short little skis that are rounded on the end instead of straight like downhill skis used to be. So I spent the entire night on the bunny hill trying to get some control over these stupid skis. I know if you're going to get a sports injury, the bunny hill. I'm going to write a tragic story about the world's most pathetic.
That is a tragic tale.
The world's most pathetic athlete. So I was fine all day. Was it all day Sunday? And then my ankle just snapped under me like that. So I spent 10 days on crutches. And now I've got my ankle in an ankle brace, and I'm fine as long as I remember that I can't just jump up and run like I could. So it's been interesting and not in a good way. But
have you read anything?
I have not read a thing except.
No, I've not read a thing either. So we're done, I guess. Bye.
Yep, makes that easy. Yeah, I've only been rereading. I told you last week I'm working on the book, The Saint in the Cellar, and so I've been reading drafts of that. So I'm not sure if that counts. And designed the cover for that. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well then, we'll move right along. Who's our guest today?
Our guest today is Ilona Parunakova. She is an author, diversity and inclusion expert and speaker, founder and CEO of IP Resilience Global and Identity Guru. Ilona is a descendant of the Armenian genocide survivors and herself survived wartime in the Republic of Georgia. She experienced ethnic discrimination, including rejection from her grandparents and being denied admission to universities. Undeterred, Ilona has earned an award in a beauty pageant, medals in a marathon and a triathlon, and degrees in business administration and ministry. She is on her way to earning a PhD. Ilona, is that current or have you earned it already?
Still current.
Okay, so you're still working on that. Ilona has been featured on Fox, NBC, CBC, and in several magazines, including Forbes. As a master coach, Ilona helps people find their voices, their courage, and self-confidence to achieve happiness, even in life's darkest times. Ilona will be talking to us about her memoir and inspirational books, Opium of the Almond Tree, I Godfident, and more, because you have quite a few books out by now. So, which reminds me, I should add a question that I have for you that I didn't think to put down. So, Michael, what's our first beer?
Oh, what is our first beer? Our first beer is 90 shilling. It's an American amber ale from Odell Brewing in Fort Collins, Colorado. I gotta say that the pairings this time were really difficult. I'm used to pairing to fiction, narrative, storytelling with images and all this, and this is ideas. So I was reaching here to try and find beers that somehow captured and expressed what I was reading. With this first reading, there's a sense of kind of steadfastness, determination, so I wanted to some kind of a beer that expressed steadfast in particular. And so I went with a malty, kind of caramely, toasty. It's kind of base flavors. But there's also a spark of inspiration, a spark of life in this reading that goes along with that steadfastness. And so the American Amber Ale has some hop to it. So you get this little burst of citrusy on top of that steadfast caramel malt. You might like this one, Lauren.
Well, it sounds absolutely delicious. And I'm trying to pour fast enough that I can actually sample this. And I'm getting a load of foam, as you can see.
That's okay. All right, cheers.
Gosh, again, cheers. That wasn't a very good clink. Let me grab another. Cheers. All right. That's one of those, I kind of want another taste of it, but I can't tell you why, because
okay.
my initial reaction is, yeah, that's really kind of tart. And
oh, all right.
It's funny, it kind of hits you in the back of the throat, like you get the initial taste, and then you get another taste farther back. Is that what you experience too, or is that just me?
Well, you have smell receptors in the back of your throat.
Well, I didn't actually know that, but now I do. As I tell Chris, I learn something every day.
Uh-huh. That's part of how you build flavor from taste, is those smell receptors in the back of your throat.
It's very interesting, though, how different it is on the back of the very back of the tongue from the front. And I've not to this extent, at least.
That's it. The bitterness kind of lingers back there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I'm surprised, but I kind of do like this. And it's a taste.
I thought you might.
Yeah, 3 years ago, I definitely would not have said that, I don't think.
No, probably not.
You're winning bit by bit. Ilona, go ahead and read your first reading.
All right. So that's the book that I will be reading from. That's The Opium of the Almond Tree. And the first reading will be from one of my chapters that I have dedicated, and it says the following. I'm not naturally ambitious. Life made me determined. I live to keep my dreams alive. I came to realization that in order to achieve anything in my life, I would need faith in myself and vision, determination and dedication. Most of my life required taking risks, to close my eyes and follow my heart. Sometimes I fell, many times I stumbled, but life did not forget about me. Life did not leave me staying down. Life never beats us down. It has no power to do so. We are protected. It is hard to finally see, and I have not fully come to see it yet myself. But everything in life happens for a reason. And I started to understand difficulties, build strong character in us. They shape us, bend us, humble us. It reveals to us our abilities to survive and strive, win, lose, and conquer. No matter what had happened to you in the past, in your childhood, or what is going on in your life at this moment, I am confident in saying that it has no power to keep you from having an amazing future if we just let God walk with us and lead us to the victory. Hold his hand.
Very nice, and very encouraging. Now, one of the things I have to admit, I had hoped that you would tell some of the really dramatic stories from this book in your readings. I'll just throw this out here, Michael. There's a scene where she loses her eye. What would you have paired to that?
Goodness, what would I have paired to that? I don't know. I would have to give that one some thought.
You just have to think about that this month. I'd be dying to know. And that was a very well written scene. I'm very familiar with Lona's books because I've edited several of them, including Opium of the Almond Tree. So because you have chosen readings that are more about ideas than specific, very visual incidents in your life, a lot of people in modern America think that life is very hard, and we make jokes about first world problems. And in a way we shouldn't, because really everybody sooner or later does face something very difficult. But I think that growing up in the Republic of Georgia, you've had some very unique difficulties that most Americans have never experienced. So would you tell us a little bit about just a few of these incidents from your life?
I know every human being, no matter where they are born, the ages and times, they want to be happy. They have their own idea of being happiness, to be happy, but not everybody is happy in the same way. So our happiness came from just waking up and seeing and meeting another day. So for me, that was my goal, my ultimate goal. So we went, and I experienced actually the collapse of the Soviet Union myself. And we have escaped the war because Georgia is the country that got hit the most after all the countries got separated and Soviet Union, came to did not exist anymore. So the Georgia got hit the most, and we have got the civil war during this time, where we have automatically got cut off of electricity. the propane. So anything that we could encounter, including the food. The only food that was available at that moment was the bread. And the bread was given to every family every other day. And we were giving the coupon, and the coupon was more than a credit card. So if you would lose this coupon, there's no way you can retrieve it. There's no way you can stop it. There's no way you can ask for another one. If you lose that coupon, you're out of luck until another month. So we would stand with my sister at 2 a.m. in the morning to get in line for the bread to come. And the line was huge. We were lucky if we would get the bread. And the coupon would specify what store could you get the bread and how much can you get the bread. So per person, they would count like a 1/4 of the bread. The bread usually would come as a round shape, probably like 12 inches, diagonal. So, and that would be enough for the family of 4. So that was our portion of bread that should last us for 2 days. And I don't know how many people know about the value of bread in my country. We cannot survive without bread. We eat bread. I eat bread, used to eat bread with chocolates, with watermelon, with everything, with honey. I would put the honey in the butter. So we would eat bread literally with everything, savory, sweet, any taste, any kind. So for us to have the available bread for every 2 days and this much per person, this is absolutely unheard of, and we were absolutely hungry as a nation.
And as people, and of course you talk in your book too about the fact that it wasn't just hunger, it was that you were extremely cold too because you had no heat left. And how long did this go on, the rationing of food and no heat?
Well, it was for years. We didn't have stability of electricity for at least 5 years. So we would get electricity only during the certain times of the day where we could, like maybe turn on the TV to watch it, and also maybe to iron some clothes or do some necessity things. So, and it was really hard. And every winter, even though the winter is not as Minneapolis in here, but winter is winter. If you're cold, you're cold. If you do not have a source of heat, anything can be cold. So in order for us to undress and get pajamas, right, like everybody else does before they go to bed, we would do opposite. We would put the clothes on us to go to bed. So that's how cold it was. And I absolutely could not stand the moments when my mom had to wake up and say, it's time to go to school. I could not stand those moments. And I'm so happy that I don't experience that, those moments anymore. It was excruciating pain just to let your body, your face to touch the cold in the morning, in your own home, and yet to touch the freezing water because there was no hot water at all to warm up the water, to get the tea, to even eat. It was just and I couldn't move my body walking from let's say bedroom to the bathroom. It was so cold.
And I think one thing, and it depends, your life's work sort of is about changing your attitude. And I think this is a powerful thing that when people have gone through very difficult situations, they have a choice. They can either spend their life being bitter and angry and upset and traumatized, whatever, or they can say, wow, I so appreciate what I have now. And, I've been thinking that as I've spent like the last 2 weeks kind of unable to walk, and I've had to depend on Chris even to bring me a glass of water some days because I can't do crutches and carry water over to the couch or whatever. And I really appreciate being able to walk again, and you just realize how much we need to appreciate the little things. They're like, as both of you know, I've moved into a completely different house, and I have a book, a memoir that I'm going to write. In fact, 35 pages are done, called Love and It's Not Greenhouse. And it's about raising my 9 children in a house that I'm not going to go into the reasons why we ended up in this house, but it was horribly, horribly inadequate for us. And both of you have seen that house. I mean, try and imagine 9 kids in it. It wasn't right for us. But on the other hand, I can look at what I'm in now and I just, I want to like hug the walls and the carpet every day. And my big fear is, what if I wake up one day and I don't realize how blessed I am anymore? And wow, to me, that's the blessing of having been in that house, is it gives me great gratitude. And in fact, that brings us to another question, which is, I think that you went through some times in all of these hard things where you did feel some despair and maybe some anger, frustration, whatever, this is unfair. At what point did you decide that you're going to look at this optimistically and take charge of your life? And what was that point?
My biggest frustration was to God. I think when we face certain challenges, we tend not to blame government as much as we blame God for everything. This is like the human being, one of the worst habits that we do. So we do not ever take responsibility for anything. We tend to go to God and blame him for everything, even though he mentions the ways we need to live. So as I was at my night, I remember I was crying to God and I was telling, how dare you letting me go through so many pain, so through the hunger, through the frustration. I said, I am only 11 years old and look at us, look at this country, I don't want to wake up because I have nothing to look forward to. I don't want to wake up to a cold, to the hunger again, to the devastation and frustration again. So where are you? And one night I remember.
Can I throw in a couple of things here? Just because I really want to highlight, because this speaks directly to your work and the books you're writing in your life school, which is to tell people, no matter how bad it seems, you can have a positive attitude, you can be proactive. I mean, war is not the only thing you've been through. You've been through your relatives rejecting you because you didn't look like, it was Georgia you grew up in, right?
Yeah.
And you look more Armenian, is that correct?
I was supposed to look more like Armenian, but I look more like Ukrainian, Russian.
Okay. And so they rejected you because you had blonde hair and blue eyes and you didn't look like them. You were not allowed into university, at least originally, because you have the wrong last name. You got your eye poked out when you were about 5. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's a horrible thing. And it was kind of by miracle, I think, that you still have vision and that it healed. You underwent at least one surgery without anesthesia because of it too. Oh, and it was truly horrifying to read about that. And, did they have no other option, or why did they do that? Was anesthesia just not available?
At that moment, we didn't have our medicine was the way it was. And, as far as it was, so that was a progression at the time that we had. Mm-hmm. So at the time we didn't have any anesthesia available for during the surgeries as like this. So, and they had to perform the way that they had to perform. So, and, praise God that everything went well. And I am sitting here in front of you guys.
Right. So back to what you were saying, though, I just want to highlight that you've really gone through a lot of very, very difficult, painful things. And so you turned to God and said, why did you allow all these awful things to happen in my mouth? Not in my mouth, I'm sorry, in my life.
Yeah.
I'm probably thinking of, lifting the beer here to my mouth. What incident changed your heart to say, I can make my life better?
He says this to me, why do you think that I am only there with the rich people? So I'm also there with the poor people as well. I'm also with the people who are crying, who are struggling, who are suffering. I'm there. I love them as much as I love the rich people and poor people. So you are not less in value to me than other people who have more stability in life than you do right now. But what I'm going to give it to you, nobody, no money in the world can buy. and you cannot purchase it with anything, with the credit cards or any valuable possession in your life. So he taught me that no matter what, we just have to stick with each other, because families is the one thing that money cannot buy. So, right. And sometimes we all do have families, but families do not come in just in a quantities, right? Or you have that, or just the fact you have a family. Family, exists there to support. It has a function. It has some kind of duty, some kind of, responsibilities to it. Not everybody is blessed to have a family that supports one another, right? Sometimes people wish that they can be born with in having different parents, but that's not something that we need to blame God for. What God said, that just receive what life gives to you. So, because when we have a trees growing in a garden or in a forest, so there's two trees, one tree that has the pure, strong roots, and another tree that has completely roots that are tangled inside of the ground. So which tree do you think will be falling off faster if the hurricane comes?
And that's a very good point. We are past our time for beer 3 already, or beer 2, I mean.
I was gonna say for beer 3, wow.
I've been drinking so much, I lost count.
Okay, then beer 2 is Pilsner Urquell. It is the original Pilsner from what is now Czech Republic. It was Bohemia at the time in the mid 1800s when it was developed. I chose this beer because this next reading is about kind of surface beauty versus a deeper, more spiritual beauty, one that you have to look for to see and appreciate. Pilsner for me is the perfect beer. It doesn't get any better than a well-made Pilsner, particularly a Czech-style Pilsner. It is a beer that is beautiful to look at. I mean, it's crystal clear, it's golden, it's got a nice cap of white foam on top, and poured into a glass, it just looks gorgeous.
Yep, it's foaming all right.
Yeah, yours doesn't look so gorgeous right now. But properly poured, it looks gorgeous. It definitely has that surface appeal. But it's also a beer that, while seemingly simple, because it's a pale lager. Everybody knows pale lagers. Pale lagers are boring. But a well-made Pilsner is a beer that if you want to pay attention to it, if you want to look at it and taste it and smell it and really pay attention to what's there is an extraordinary complexity and depth that you will find. And so the Pilsner, to me, kind of expressed that idea of surface beauty versus a deeper, more spiritual beauty.
Am I going to love it or hate it?
You'll probably hate it.
That's what Chris said.
But I'll say with this that you're wrong.
I love it. Even if I go throw up after taking a taste, I'm wrong. I love it.
Yeah, no, you're wrong. This is
fair enough.
Amazing beer.
I'm wrong. I know.
Yeah, I knew you were going to like this one. But
I'll try and accept that I'm just wrong. I'm probably not going to be finishing that glass.
You can go back to the other one.
but I might actually go back and keep trying it, trying to understand what this complexity is of which you speak, because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
But I do see why you say that's a good choice for this reading.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, Ilona, reading number 2. And I've now had my beer froth all over my notes, so we'll see if I can even read them when you're done with your reading. Go ahead.
So the second reading that I chose, it says beauty of the woman. And the question is that, do you know why God created the woman after he created the man? Because in the beginning, you do a sketch, and then later you create a masterpiece. And the author is unknown. And I think the author had willingly chose to become unknown because he or she may know that it will be a lot of judgment that he or she is going to encounter after this statement. So true beauty cannot be limited by external attractiveness. A person is beautiful if he or she has a beautiful soul, if he or she speaks beautifully of his inner words as a sublime and a beautiful as his face or body. That cold beauty can delight, but she always leaves the feeling that she is missing something. It's an inferior beauty, and therefore it cannot be eternal. She cannot cause sincere delight, cannot light hearts. Real beauty, by contrast, can save the world. It inspires the people to do great efforts. And it doesn't matter what kind of feat it will be. It is bold act, heroic deeds, or simply the desire to become better, cleaner, more worthy. Beauty has a great power because it settles in the soul of the woman and makes her sing, strive for something better, makes her alive.
I think this is the perfect reading to scrap everything I had planned here and talk about the beauty pageant you were in. I think there are many, many interesting aspects to this, you know, despite many people's opinion that beauty pageants are shallow or whatever. But number one, I want to talk about the fact that you took a bit of a risk, I think more so than some people, which why did it feel like a risk to you to enter that beauty pageant?
For me, beauty pageant was just just an affirmation that I'm not ugly, as my relatives had called me. So I just wanted to let them know that they should stop, and they did after that. So beauty pageant was the risk in terms that that's the first time. And of course, everybody wanted to win. And my risk was that I didn't want to be another humiliation or another affirmation that, yes, they were right. So, yeah, I didn't want it to be eliminated either soon or get caught and saying no again. So they will be like, oh, why do I bother? Yes, they say I'm ugly. It is what it is. So I didn't want to live with this statement in my entire life that now they had to back them up, and I had to live with the consequences. But when I went to the beauty pageant, they had some the problem afterwards, because I was removed. They removed my title from me because my own best friend went to the.
Before you go into that, can you actually give some background of the title that you won? Because you were up against, let's just say it was rigged. Can you tell our audience a little bit about how you came to enter the beauty pageant in the first place and about that rigging?
We were coming down from the school, and in one of our ways down, we saw the big poster, and the poster said that, we are conducting our first annual beauty pageant for Armenian diaspora. And since I'm not fully Armenian, I'm like a hybrid. So I thought that, well, it's probably not going to happen. So, but since I still had Armenian blood, I'm like, maybe it will make me qualify. So my friends had encouraged me to go and enter because they said, you have nothing to lose. I thought to myself, it's easy for you to say that you have nothing to lose, because for me, it's more another affirmation that they would probably have to say again, yes, you don't belong to us. You have nothing to, with us. You're not Armenian. You do not look Armenian. So it will be another humiliation and affirmation for them. So I went for the preliminary cut, for the preliminary day, and they had accepted me. So, and then after that, I had to be going, of course, for our meetings, for our rehearsals, the catwalk, and all that part. So during this time, I saw that they had already pre-chosen their winners. It was very obvious. And I can tell in any beauty pageant, almost 99% who's going to be the winner, because I know ins and outs. It's very political. Not probably, but most of them are based on political views, and it's very important because it has to kind of combine and be part of some kind of reunion, some kind of settlement with one party or another. But beauty pageant was very political. So I didn't know that. But for me, well, what girl doesn't want to be dressed up What girl doesn't want to look like a Cinderella, at least for one night? And for me, it was a Cinderella moment. So at that moment, I went through one cut, through second cut, semifinals, finals, and I won the Miss Beauty pageant for a People's Choice Award at that moment, where everybody in the congregation, they have started to scream my name, and they actually had to create a title because all the titles have been already distributed prior to the thing. So even the judges were very surprised. They were actually very frightened and scared. So what the crowd is going to do if I do not win? So at the split moment, they had to create a title that they didn't exist. They didn't think about it. So I actually won that title, in the right way.
And this is so. Let me jump back to some of the things that I actually had planned, because I think this speaks to that probably the audience saw something in you, a different sort of inner beauty, because you didn't know it was rigged. And I think the pre-selected winners knew that they were going to get it. So they probably approached all their events. Like one of your events was you had to create a costume, or not a costume, but an outfit from what, a potato sack?
Yep.
And I'm guessing they didn't try too hard because they already knew they won. I'm guessing they didn't try too hard. So, I've had the experience of knowing people, and their attractiveness seems to literally change. Their face seems to change as I get to know them, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. Have you had that experience?
And yes, many, many, many times.
Michael, I know you're muted, so unmute fast. I'm curious, Michael, have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, I think so.
There's no question here, unfortunately, because I'm just going to say, I think it does have to do with that inner beauty you're talking about, but I've had it a few times where one way or another, where I think someone's really attractive and I get to know them and their face literally seems to change and become physically different. So you equate internal beauty, not just with character, but with our deeds, which are linked, and even with our desire to be better. And how do you think that a person simply striving for better character or inner beauty, how can they save the world by that simple act?
I think first of all, what they should not do is to compare themselves with others. I think that will set them up for the failure. Because I was growing up, I wanted to be just like everybody else. I wanted to be as beautiful, quote to quote, as everybody else. I wanted to be just like them, think like them, act like them, look like them. But this comparison completely killed me. And if I did not stop on the right time, I would probably completely destroy me and I would not be the person I am today. But when you discover this inner beauty, that who you are, the uniqueness, I think instead of being blameful to God for why I'm not like them, I think you need to celebrate for who you are. And the fact that you are different, because that's what makes you unique. That's what makes you stand out from the crowd. And that's when you realize who you are. You will not become bitter anymore. You will become better. And by changing yourself, things around you, the world around you changes as well.
I think that's very true, and I think about my own life, that the decisions I've made have changed everything. Obviously, had I not made some of the decisions I did to follow my faith, I might have only 2 kids as opposed to 9, and I think that affects everybody who sees us. And, any decision we make, yes, it's the same, for better or worse, the life you live is going to impact those around you. I do want to touch, and technically we're over time for beer number 2, but I think this is really important. Your mother was a huge impact on you, and tell us a little bit about her, because I think she's the epitome of what you're talking about with inner beauty, although she was physically very beautiful too. I mean, I've seen her pictures. She looks like a movie star.
I tell everybody, I do not know what I have done in my life to deserve the mother like her. and I'll try not to cry, talking about her. So she's an absolute the saint to me. She always has been and always will be. There is no question about that. She is the one who had a very tough time and upbringing, and my dad had a very good life, not himself, but when we merged the families compared to her. So even though he spoiled us with all of these special treats, the extra shopping every single weekend, my mom would always bring us back, and she would always ask us to please appreciate what you have. She is a strong woman of faith. She's not a religious person, but she's really fearful of God. She respects him, and she just respects every person and treats them just like she wanted to be treated, and as they're the valuable in the sight of God. So the value that she had invested, not for me, but in me, is going to live and lives through the generation. And I want to create a legacy. I think she already created the legacy with my dad in me, to keep going and keep striving in our lives. So no matter what life is going to bring to you, do not blame God for that. Just thank him and ask him for more strength in your life. And that's what she gave me.
She's just reading about her. I wish everybody could have a mother just like her. She really sounds fantastic. With her feet grounded and always the right attitude, and taught you very well that attitude is everything, being grateful for what you have. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we move on to beer number 3.
All right. So beer number 3, Chimay Grand Reserve. This is a Belgian strong dark ale from, I can't even say, it's a monastery that has a really long name in French.
So, it's not on the bottle.
It is.
This looks really short to me. Perez Trappists.
It is a Trappist monastery.
Okay.
So there's one phrase in this, not to give a spoiler or something, one phrase in this reading that I latched onto. I do not want to blend in anymore in the socialistic standards and expectations of this fallen world. So I kind of latched on to the idea of the fallen world. You have the wrong beer there, Laura. You have Chimay
Oh my
Red.
goodness. You caught me.
You
Yeah.
want Chimay Blue.
They didn't have Chimay Blue.
No surprise there.
Well, Chris asked them, just let's get Chimay, and maybe you can tell us about the difference between Chimay Red and Chimay Blue. I forgot about that.
So this is just a sublime beer. It's a shame you don't have this, because this would be your beer, Laura.
Do they taste completely, utterly different?
It's a sublime beer. It's very strong. It's full of kind of dark caramel and dark fruits, figs, plums. It's just glorious. But it's also a Trappist ale, which is another way that it sort of elevates itself above the fallen values. So there are several. So the role of St. Benedict says that monasteries have to have an industry to support themselves. They have to be self-sustaining. And so monasteries all over the world do different things. I mean, they make cheese, they make bread, they make beer. There's even a monastery somewhere that fills ink cartridges. That's their industry. So there's a Trappist organization that sort of regulates all of these products. In order to get the Trappist label, the beer has to be brewed on monastery property. The brewing process has to be overseen by monks. That doesn't mean it's all monks making the beer, because some of these are large breweries, but the process is overseen by monks. And any proceeds from the beer above and beyond what the monastery needs to sustain itself have to be donated to charity. So if you've met all 3 of those, then the Trappist organization will take a look at the product you're making and decide whether it's good enough to receive that label. So in many ways, this sort of transcends the norms, transcends the kind of debased world of beer that we live in now, where peanut butter porter is a thing.
And a cream cupcake beer, or whatever it is that you
right, exactly.
That is actually very fascinating. I mean, I know a little bit about that. I know that, Trappists raise German Shepherds, Bernards, and have, yes, as you say, all sorts of ways of supporting themselves. But that's interesting about how it is able to get the Trappist label and how that relates to this reading. So
that's Chimay Grand Reserve. That's their top level. It's their special beer. It's a Belgian strong dark ale.
Right. Cheers. It must be this one that I just poured because it's still foamy.
You'll like the one that you have too, I think.
I kind of do like this. Yeah, that I tend to like. So do you think that I would like the blue label better?
So take the one that you have and just amp it up significantly.
I think I would like that. I still have a list of beers that I wasn't able to get quickly enough that I would love. And I still need to dig through our notes and go get a couple of those. So we are ready for reading number 3.
All right. That's the pretty much culmination of my chapters, because that's pretty much, there is a last the last paragraphs. I discovered that my identity begins as individual with consciousness and a self-awareness. An individual person is a set of thoughts and ideas, relationships, and actions formed in a process of his development that affects and determines his behavior. At some point, I said to myself, I do not want to be blended in anymore in a socialistic standards and expectations of this fallen world. Why can't I raise the spark and rekindle the flame that was breathed into me by Creator and carry this through my life? I do not want to live my life with regret or shame, with sorrow or any pain of falling or failing to know who I am. I know that in a broad traditional sense, a person is a person as a subject of social relations and conscious activities, and it's customary to emphasize the social character of the individual. Its emergence and development is possible only thanks to the life of the person in society. I am on a mission to keep my family values and dreams alive, and it is my responsibility to pass it to my children and their children, and I will do so.
I love this passage. It really speaks to how important our choices are again. And I think a fair number of people do not live consciously these days. There is one of the kind of questions that I had for you was about the fact that your books are very Christian oriented, centered, and yet these are ideas that apply to anybody. For instance, the Catholic faith has this idea of the 4 last things. We get this in order: death, judgment, heaven, or hell. Death, judgment, hell, or heaven. And the point of that, it doesn't even matter if you're religious or not, that still applies. It's the idea of start from the end. You think about, what do you want the end of your life to look like? And you're kind of talking about some of those ideas. And I think too few people really think about that, and they just go day by day without thinking, what are we leaving behind? What is the legacy, which is a huge, huge focus of your writing. So, my identity, I'm curious what drew you to this, because you have a number of books now. You have Legacy Legends, which is about people leaving legacies and heritage. You have I Godfident, which is about finding, really understanding your identity. What has drawn you so strongly to this concept of identity? Why are you drawn to that?
People usually come with a different stigma, or, sometimes people usually judge people depending on the cultures, traditions, the countries, and heritages. And in some sense, yes, it is true. Some people say the Russians may speak their minds. Some people may say that some Europeans act certain way, Americans are a certain way. So in some sense, it may be true, but it's who they are. It's what the culture is made them to be. It's what they know. for. And therefore, sometimes this world is trying to change who we are, not understanding where we come from, the history, what made us, strong. Why do sometimes people say certain things and they're maybe more direct than others, why Americans act the way they act. So unless you understand the history, you will always judge the people who are on the other side. And my message is to do not conform to the world, because you are the world. And who you are, your traditions, it's who you are. You need to protect that. That's what makes your identity to become who you are, that shapes your characters, that shapes your thinking. You cannot think like everybody else. Like Europeans cannot think like Americans. Americans cannot think like Asians. And Russians cannot think like Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So we all are our own people and identity. So the way we speak, the way we say, and that's what my message pretty much is about, to be who you are, because this world will try to break you, blend you, bend you, and try to conform you for who you're not. So think who you think, but of course, being respectful and be who you are doesn't mean that you have to break all the laws and policies. Being respectful, it starts from within you, understanding your values, your characters, what you stand for. And that's what my call is, my challenge is to the world. Be a better person, know who you are, celebrate your uniqueness. And when you're happy with who you are, everything else around you will change for better.
Your books are very geared toward people who maybe feel that they don't really have a strong sense of identity, don't have a strong sense of who they are. I read them, I agree with everything you say, but I also realized a long time ago that I'm a little unusual. I thought it was normal because what you know, but what's inside your own head. But I've always had a very, very strong sense of who I am, of what's right and what's wrong. If somebody does something wrong, I'm not going to stand for that. And that goes back to when I was 4 or 5 years old, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to say it like it is. I know what I want out of life. From the time I was young, I wanted writing, I wanted music. But that's unusual. Why do you think that it is unusual that so many people reach adulthood and they still have this sort of floating sense of who am I? Why am I here? What do I want out of life? What do I even want to do with my life? Why is that uncommon?
Yeah, I believe the big contribution to this thinking is the media, the magazines, what's portrayed out there. They create their ideal person. They create their ideal woman, ideal man, what they should be, what they should look like. And therefore, the people who are listening to the media messages, looking at the magazine's covers, they all, they start thinking of myself, am I good enough? Am I enough? And therefore, they start thinking, and because like I said, the biggest danger that we fall is the comparison, when we compare ourselves with others. And that's where we have to stand very strong. We have to know who we are. And it's not easy, especially in these days. Look at the children, what is happening to the social media, how the peer pressure is so strong. And I think if we would eliminate things from the social media, and if it starts, spreading the better messages about being happy who you are, you do not have to blow yourself up to be attractive. You do not have to blow yourself up, because there is no such university that teaches how to be beautiful inside. Yes, there is a surgeons out there who can perform quote unquote miracle that is going to last for days, maybe months, but that's it. But what's inside of you, it's going to last forever. And therefore, I think that is the biggest contribution to the people who feel the lack of self-esteem in nowadays, and lack of self-value right now, because they don't think that they are enough to sustain to this world. They don't think that they're beautiful enough to get a good position or to get what they want in life. So, and what they get in life, it's what they want.
I find this a fascinating answer, because this is actually one of the differences in my life. My very earliest years, up till I was almost 6, were spent in Germany. We didn't have English television, and so I rarely watched media. And that's just, maybe that is part of why I grew up with a strong sense of myself. I wasn't watching media. And I probably didn't watch it a whole lot for a few years after that either, because I just wasn't in the habit. So in the last like minute and a half, 2 minutes that we have left here, can you tell our listeners just a little bit about your YouTube channel and IP Resilience?
So YouTube channel was born during the pandemic, right in March of 2020, when everything got shut off. And motivation of that was so I can create the messages to the senior citizen that I was part of. I wanted to send them a good messages, and the only thing that I could do that in a big value, like 5 minutes, was to create the YouTube channel. I had nothing, no knowledge, no experience. What am I doing? How to say, what to say, how to hold the camera, lighting, none of that. But that day sparked the new idea of using this channel of IP Resilience to encourage, uplift, and support people around me through the stories, through the messages, and through each other's.
Yeah, and it's I was amazed at how it grew. It just, without a whole lot of work from you, it really grew spontaneously, which I think means that, it's beneficial. And I'm a believer in God, of course. I believe he's drawing people to it because you have a lot of good, encouraging things there. In the last couple minutes here, I would first of all really encourage everyone to read Ilona's book, Opium of the Almond Tree. It's we read passages more on ideas here, but the book itself is full of really fascinating stories and imageries, things that happened while living in a communist country. And we touched briefly on the surgery without anesthetic, things like that. But there's so many more, some stories about your dad running into some very difficult situations. One where I think there were a couple times where he was almost murdered. And one of them, I believe, because of his ethnicity. So, and unfortunately, we're at the end of our time, but I would encourage everyone to read the book. It's really a powerful look at both historically what it was to live there, about the Armenian genocide, about what it is to live through hard times, living with faith, deciding to strike out and do your best in life, no matter what you're handed. So, Ilona, where can people find you?
They can reach out to me on social platforms as Facebook with my first name and last name the way it appears on the screen. And for my IG is IP Resilience. The YouTube channel is also IP Resilience. A website ipresilience.com.
Fantastic. And Michael, where are we and where are you?
I am aperfectpint.net and A Perfect Pint. We are booksandbrews.net, Book and Brews on Instagram, and Books and Brews with Laura Vosica and Michael Agnew on
Fun
Facebook.
breath. And yes,
Where are you?
Yeah, well, I'm sitting here in my living room having drunk a lot of beer. You want me to think? I'm at either lauravosica.com or bluebellschronicles.com will get you to the same place. I'm on Facebook, laura.vosica.author. I'm on Twitter under some form of gabrielshornbooks.com. I can't remember the abbreviation, and I don't do a whole lot there anymore.
You're horrible at this.
I know. And well, in my defense, I've moved 4 times in the last 12 months, but sooner or later, I'll get back into the swing of things. Plus, I've been writing again, so I write all day. Do you have any upcoming events, Michael?
No. Ilona, do you have any upcoming events that people can check out?
Yes, I will be traveling to speak to Greece, to London, and to Dubai, and then to San Antonio, Texas. So on the next 2 weeks will be the traveling and speaking.
Wow. Okay. Unfortunately, this will air farther out than 2 weeks. Well, about 2 weeks from now. But
perfect.
Is there a link where people can find your schedule?
They will be able to find me probably on the YouTube. Everything will be like on the YouTube, okay. Every event I will be posting in there. So they will be able to get more information from there as well, because we do post our links and our websites as well. So they'll be able to go check me out. And
fantastic. Okay. And
who's our guest next week or next month, whenever?
Right.
Next time.
Time goes fast. Coming next month, I believe, are switching back to fiction. Marian McCarthy is a novelist with a long career as a freelancer, corporate communications consultant, technical copywriter, columnist, ghostwriter, editor, and writing teacher. And I didn't add the part about her books, but I think that the book we'll be talking about is a mystery fiction, if I remember correctly. So, yeah.
Awesome. Look forward to that. Ilona, I want to thank you for joining us here and sharing your thoughts and ideas. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in and downloading the podcast. Tell your friends. This has been Books and Brews podcast, episode number 35. Cheers.